Hello and welcome everybody to Pristine Institute for Education. Today I would like to talk with Mr. Shahriar Talukdar sir, and today we will be talking about English and different issues of English, different problems, aspects and also prospects of English, different things we will be talking. So first of all, sir, I would like to ask you that without listening and speaking, how come is it possible to teach our students English? Unfortunately, we do not have any marks in listening and speaking portion. So how would you evaluate it?
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pretty nice question, I must say, that listening and speaking, these two skills, two core, you can say core skills for learning any language. But unfortunately, in our education system, we have seen, especially in our schools, that these two skills are not, they are not given emphasis on these two skills specifically. We give more emphasis on writing and also on reading. But speaking and listening, these two skills are completely ignored. So as these two skills are not tested, especially in the exam, so what happens that our students, they don't give any importance on it. And also for teaching, it affects the teachers also in that way that when it is not tested, then teachers, they don't have to care about these two skills because they don't have to include anything from listening and speaking in their exam, the question papers. So, but in a sense, you can see that the language comprises of four different skills that we know. First, it starts with listening, then speaking, then it's reading, and last of all is writing, because writing it is considered to be one of the most difficult skills out of these four. But in our schools, we see that this is speaking and listening, they are not taught. So when these two main ingredients of any language learning environment or scenario, when these two main ingredients or skills are absent from the scenario, so you can understand it very well that how actually we can go with this language or language efficiency. So that's why we find that our students, they're good at writing, they're good at grammar specifically, and also they're good at reading. But while it comes to speaking and listening, we find that most of our students, they're not that much proficient enough to handle these two skills.
Well, sir, here language means, first of all, that means a person will understand what the native speakers say, and also he will be able to talk. So don't you think that without incorporating just these two ingredients, we are losing the whole portion of teaching English?
Absolutely right. If we consider teaching English, if it is a language, if we consider it as a language, if you think that language is a complete entity, then definitely, when you ignore two main core skills from this, language teaching whole process, then certainly we are not, giving our students the right language. So two skills they know, and other two skills they don't know. And you see, all these four skills actually they complement each other. So if you ignore one, then definitely it will affect the other skill.
Yes, sir. And also without speaking and listening, for example, many of our children, they can speak Hindi very well, but without learning or studying anything about Hindi.
Absolutely right.
So don't you think that if we want to teach our students English, first of all we have to teach speaking and listening, then the other skills?
Yes, because you see, for the first language also it happens with us. You see, a child, he will start with listening because, when he's 3 months to 6 months or even 9 months, 1 year, 12 months. So they, most of the time, actually, they're receiving the sounds and the patterns of the language, that particular language. And it's completely very much phonemic, they're just taking the phonemes, they're taking the sounds, they're listening to those things. So it's completely receptive. Then later on, when they grow up, you see, after 1 or 2 or 3 years, they started babbling, and also they started pronouncing some of the words, picking some of the words, whatever actually they are listening to. So it starts with the listening, then it goes to the speaking. So we are ignoring these two skills, and certainly it is affecting the later two.
So what to do, sir?
What to do? I have seen that our books, which are taught in our schools, they're good books, certainly, and our professionals those who are actually involved in preparing these materials, they did a lot and they did lots of research. But the thing is that it's not only about the research work or not only about, producing good books. We have to prepare our teachers, and also we have to prepare our students to learn the language. They don't know that's what is speaking and listening. When they're in primary school or when they're in the secondary level, even in standard 11 and standard 12. We don't see that these two skills are focused. So what we have to do, if we really want to teach the language, the English language as a whole, then certainly we have to concentrate on these two first, then we have to go for the rest of the two. Because I can just mention it here, just to relate the whole thing, with this research work. You see, when this audiolingual method that we know in the language teaching methodology and approaches, there you can see it was developed in 1970s or even in 1960s. It started with the direct method, and other grammar translation method was there all the time. So when it was developed in 1970s, it emphasized on the, you see the speaking and the listening first. First listening, then the speaking, this audiolingual method. Later on, in 1980s, this communicative teaching approach, it developed, and it started, emphasizing all these skills together, not only those two. Because in the audiolingual method, they only emphasize on speaking and listening, and in a sense, they ignored the writing and the reading part. But the communicative approach, actually, it started, incorporating all these skills together. So here you see, our books are, based on these communicative approach. So if it is really based on this communicative approach, then certainly actually we have to focus on all these skills, not only writing and reading. And also we have to, train our teachers, and at the same time, the question pattern, we have to change it. Yes. So in the question, there must be some slots for speaking and also for listening, so that our students will give value to it and they will put emphasis, and also teachers will also, they will put emphasis on it, because when it will be there in the part, it will be there as a part of the question paper. So certainly they will put some emphasis, the teachers and also the students.
Well, sir, why didn't you consider that every portion should be equal, like listening 50, speaking 50, reading 50, writing 50? So this way, why can't we make our questions?
Maybe it is possible, but you can see that, especially if we talk about our country, here you see we can avail the reading and the writing stuff quite easily. But for the speaking, our teachers, I'm not saying that all the teachers, most of our teachers, they don't have proper training that how to use this speaking skill inside the class. So that is one barrier. And another thing is that for the listening, we need some equipments. These are not that much costly, but we need, some infrastructure actually is needed. And at the same time, if you just look at the size of the classroom, especially you can see in most of the classes we have 40, 50, 80, in some cases 100 students. Yes. The thing is that when you have, so many students in one of a class, because in an ideal language class, actually it must not be larger than 80 to 20 students, at best 25 students, so that you can address all the students together. But when it is more than that, it gets very difficult. So monitoring, the listening skill and also the speaking skill, if it is a large class, it gets very difficult. But on the other hand, reading and writing, you can manipulate these skills. Even if it is a large class, that I should say. So that's why, sometimes it seems very unrealistic if we don't change our classroom structure, and also if our administration, the school administration, college administration, if they're not that much cooperative, or if they're not sensitized that these two skills are missing from their school, until and unless, actually, I don't think that it's going to work. So that is the thing. I think it makes the situation more difficult.
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome.